Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. It's been an extremely busy last 7 days for the Miami Hurricanes in the transfer portal. I think the most exciting part about this conversation is it doesn't even sound like the Miami Hurricanes are slowing down in terms of being aggressive in the transfer portal. Few more names that have emerged as top targets for the Miami Hurricanes. Want to dive into some of those names, including one of my favorite players that is currently in the portal in DAngelo Ponds at James Madison. Want to talk about him, talk about the real perfect fit in my mind that he would have for this Miami Hurricanes defense. Talk about a few other names. Really excited to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, the Miami Hurricane fans. It has been an absolute blast talking this program over the last 7 days, breaking down the commitments. The amount of support y'all have shown the fellas truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear some of your feedback on the names we are talking about in the comments section. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start off with, again, one of my favorite players that's available. And you see the recruiting, the 24/7 Sports ranking of him as a portal cornerback. And I think they couldn't be more far off. And I have a ton of respect for 24/7 Sports. I've noted that. But you look at DAngelo Ponds, what he did at James Madison as a true freshman was one of the more impressive freshman seasons that you saw across the country, regardless of conferences. And I kind of understand why they're skeptical of DAngelo Ponds making that jump to the ACC level. He's 5'9", 165 pounds. You dive into the tape, and a lot of those concerns kind of wash away. And again, the competition is not necessarily what you'll see at the Power 4 level, but this is a guy that started every single game for James Madison during his true freshman year, over 715 snaps in coverage, 66 targets, only gave up 30 catches for a 45% completion percentage. I think one of my favorite attributes that DAngelo Ponds brings to the table is on those 30 catches, he only gave up 250 yards of receiving. His missed tackle rate is 7.4%, and that is kind of one of those conversations that I feel like gets glossed by a lot in terms of how well are your defensive backs tackling in space. DAngelo Ponds, 8 run stops, a 7.4% missed tackle rate. This is a sticky cornerback in man coverage who has elite short area quickness, but also the question about, okay, can he match up physically at the ACC level? I mean, he tackles about as sure as you'll see, especially from a true freshman. I think a couple of things that really excite you. One, he's extremely versatile, right? At 5'9", 165, I think you project him to play more of that nickel role, but you go back to the JMU film, he was playing wide cornerback and doing a damn good job of it at that. You kind of have some confidence that he could probably play that wide cornerback spot, but you kind of feel that probably his best spot would be at that nickel role. I think you look at that Hurricanes defensive back group and say you would welcome a guy like DAngelo Ponds, who brings not only a really, really good football player with plenty of eligibility and plenty of potential to still reach, but more importantly, a guy that is really versatile and allows you to move him around the field and kind of put your best 5 defensive backs out on the field at the same time. I'm a massive fan of DAngelo Ponds. I think this would be a massive get for the Hurricanes. And you start looking at, again, the biggest question we had for this Miami Hurricanes program to address in the spring transfer portal window. It was the back end of this defense. I think they made a really good move going out and getting Donnie Hill, a guy that has shown he can do it at the college football level, going back to Marshall. And we know Travis Jackson, Lance Guidry know what he brings. And then you're bringing a guy like DAngelo Ponds who could play nickel, could play boundary. And you suddenly look at that cornerback room and say, all right, we feel good about Damari Brown. We have a couple guys that have shown they could play really good in DAngelo Ponds and Donnie Hill, but you have, Damari Brown, Jadias Richard, a guy like Rob Stafford. I think there's a lot of young talent in that cornerback room as well. So you kind of mix that room up with guys that have shown they can do it at the college football level with a lot of young talent that, really could surprise us in 2024. That is exactly how you want that cornerback room to work. And you land a guy like DAngelo Ponds, and I'm looking at this Hurricanes cornerback room and saying it was a massive question mark about 4 weeks ago. You feel kind of good about it heading into 2024. I would love to see them make this happen. The other 2 players I want to run by real quick. One, Simeon Barrow Jr., who it sounds like it's between LSU, Missouri, and Miami. Miami, I believe, got him on campus for the last visit. You talk about Simeon Barrow Jr., you talk about pass rush. Many of you guys know I'm a Michigan fan. I've seen a lot of Simeon Barrow Jr. over the last couple of years. He's an elite pass rusher from the inside, and I think that's a really coveted skill set at the college football level. You look at some of the best defenses in the country, they all seem to have really good pass rushers from the inside. And you look at this Hurricanes program and say, we like some of the bodies inside, right? CJ Clark, Marley Cook from Middle Tennessee. Do we have a difference maker on the inside? I do think Simeon Barrow Jr. could be that difference maker for the Miami Hurricanes. Take a look at the pass rush numbers, a 14% pass rush win rate from the inside, 17 quarterback hurries. You might have a little bit of questions about what he can do against the run, but you turn on the film of Simeon Barrow Jr., the first step, the ability to use his hands. This is an elite pass rusher on the inside of your defensive line, and we kind of said it from the jump. We don't have many question marks about the Miami Hurricanes and what they have on the defensive line, but we also said during the transfer portal, if there's an ability or an opportunity to get better along the line of scrimmage, you knew Mario Cristobal was going to try to capitalize on, and I think Simeon Barrow Jr. would be kind of that example. The other name I want to talk about here is edge rusher Tyler Barron, who kind of a wild last 6 months for him, was phenomenal for Tennessee in 2023 at the SEC level. You take a look at the numbers, a 16.7% pass rush win rate, 31 quarterback hurries. I mean, some of the better numbers that you would see in the SEC. Really good against the run, 16 run stops, 0.1 yards, average depth of tackle. This is a guy that wins at the line of scrimmage, knows how to get off blocks. I wouldn't say Miami is a big need at the edge rusher position with guys like Ruben Brain and Akeem Mesidor, but I mean, with a guy like Nigel Kelly, Jaden Wayne transferring out of the program, you're probably looking at Mario Cristobal and saying, hey, we wouldn't mind getting one more veteran body that's played a lot of Power 5 football in that edge rusher room. And I mean, we're excited about Marquise Lightfoot or Booker Pickett Jr. We don't necessarily want to be relying on those guys in 2024 to give us high-level reps because they are true freshmen. And I mean, let's just be frank, Ruben Baines don't grow on trees. I think Marquise Lightfoot could be a guy that can play early, but if you're Mario Cristobal and looking at this team in 2024, you're saying, I don't know if I want to bet and rely on a true freshman playing early and giving us good reps. And Tyler Barron would kind of allow you to go into the season saying, hey, this defensive line can be an absolute terror. And we kind of talk about this all the time. For the question marks you might have in this Hurricanes defensive back room, you can go ahead and mitigate a lot of those questions by having an elite front seven that can get after the passer. I go back to the Georgia years in 2021 where Kirby Smart went into that season saying, hey, I'm not sure if we have a great secondary in 2021. Well, how it played out was it didn't matter if Georgia had a good secondary because that pass rush, that front seven was so dominant. It just took a lot of pressure off that Georgia secondary. Maybe that's how Mario Cristobal is going about building this defense. You make no mistake about it, looking to build the trenches. But DAngelo Ponds, that is a guy that if you're a Miami Hurricane fan, in my humble opinion, you got to be going after because I think he's a true difference maker. And he's a local kid, right, from Chaminade, Madonna. I think that makes a ton of sense. Really excited to see how it goes. Apparently, Miami's going in-home on a visit. We'll see how it plays out. We'll, of course, keep you guys updated. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.